Hi everyone, my name is Anaya Singani. I am an Associate Developer Advocate over here at MongoDB, and today I'm going to be showing you all an in-depth tutorial on how to build a functional CRUD Flask application that connects to a MongoDB Atlas database and is hosted on Azure App Services. So this tutorial is really beneficial for helping teach the basics of how to build your own Flask application with various fundamental properties, how to connect it to a scalable database, and then how to host it on Azure App Services so anyone, anywhere can access your application as well, even without the local files. In this tutorial, we are going to be making a virtual bookshelf, and within this bookshelf, we will have the power to create a new book, to pick a book to read, to update a book that's already existing in our bookshelf, and to delete a book. At the end of our tutorial, our bookshelf will be hosted so anyone, anywhere with our website link can access our bookshelf as well. Before we get started, there are a handful of prereqs that you should already have. So make sure you have a MongoDB Atlas account and a Microsoft Azure App Services subscription, Postman Desktop, and Python 3.9. Let's jump right in. All right. So first what we need to do is head into our Atlas account and set up a free cluster. To do this, just hit Build a Database. Select the M0 free tier, scroll down and click Azure, and then for our region we want to do East 2, and our cluster name will be Bookshelf. And hit Create. After you hit Create, you'll be taken to this page where we need to set up a username and a password. So for my username, I'm just going to do MongoDB, and for my password, I am also going to do MongoDB, and hit Create User. I already have it in here. I'm going to scroll down, and I want to put access from anywhere, so I'm going to do 0.0.0.0. So just a note, having this IP access and having this username and password is not secure. So if you need a secure cluster, please use secure name and password and a secure IP address. So hit finish and close once you're done with that, and then go to databases. Once your cluster is finished provisioning, it's going to look like this. And now just hit Browse Collections. We are going to be setting up our bookshelf with just one book to get started with. So click on Add My Own Data. Our database name will be Bookshelf, and our collection name will be Books, and hit Create. Awesome. So just to show you guys how to insert a document and so that we have one book in our database to begin with, I'm going to hit on Insert Document. I'm going to name it Book, and my book is going to be The Great Gatsby. I'm going to add a field for pages, and for pages it's not going to be a string, it's going to be a number. So I'm going to do 208 pages in The Great Gatsby, and then just hit Insert. Amazing, and there it is. Now that we have our database set up, let's move on. To start off, we need to create a directory for where our project will live. So to do this, just open up your terminal and make a directory called Flask Mongo Azure. And I've already done this, and once it's up and open in VS Code, we are going to set up our Python virtual environment. So this is necessary so that we have all of our files in a fun spot to live where nothing else already downloaded can bother them. To do this, just type in Python 3 venv and then the name of your virtual environment. I'm just going to name mine demo, but you can name it anything. Once that's done, do source, the name of your virtual environment, bin, and then activate. And this activates our virtual environment. And we will know that we are inside of it when we see the parentheses and then demo in front of your laptop name or computer name. Once we are in our virtual environment, it is time to set up our requirements.txt file. So to do this, just head over here and put in our requirements.txt. And then we can start putting in our dependencies. So we have Flask, PyMongo, python.env, and then black. Awesome, save that. So our requirements.txt file consists of 4 dependencies that this project requires. The first one is Flask, and Flask is a micro framework for Python, and it provides the basic tools for building web apps, such as routing and request handling. And Flask actually allows for easy integration with other libraries and frameworks, and it also allows for a lot of flexibility and customizability. So even if you've never worked with Flask before, I'll walk you right through it for this project. The second dependency we have is PyMongo. So PyMongo is a Python library for MongoDB, and this one is necessary because we need to connect to our MongoDB database and collections. The third one we have is python.env, and this is a tool used to store really important information such as passwords, securities, and so much more. And this means that instead of hard coding in your passwords and such, python.env actually allows us to keep this information in an environment variable in a completely separate file, which is pretty cool. And our next dependency is black. So black is a code formatter for Python, and it enforces a consistent coding style, making it really easy for developers to not only read, but also maintain code. We also have all of our dependencies in our requirements.txt file because it'll allow us to install all of them in one really simple step, which is just pip install our requirements.txt. Awesome. Now that we have all of our requirements in place, let's set up our app.py file. To do this, once again, just head over here and type in app.py. And now we need to put in all of our imports. So I'll make this a little bit smaller. So we have import bson, import os, then from .env, import load.env, and then from Flask, import Flask. We have render template, and we also have request. And then from PyMongo, we're going to have import Mongo client. And then from pymongo.collection, we're going to import our collection. And then same with our database. So from pymongo.database, we are going to import in our database. So our app.py file is the main file that we're going to be working with. And so all of these imports are our environment variable imports, our Flask imports, our PyMongo imports, and the bson import that we need in order to work with binary JSON data. So once that we have those imports set up, let's first test and make sure that Flask is properly set up because it is super crucial for our demo. So now we need to create our new Flask application object. To do this, just do app Flask is equal to Flask and then name. So here we named it app and then we gave it the name of our current file, and now we need to create a new root for our application. So let me scroll down here and we'll just do app.root, and then to start off with we'll have it be like that, and then def index, and for now we'll just do return hi. So this actually tells the server which URL to listen for and which function to run when that URL is requested. In this specific example, the root is our homepage and the function that runs returns the string hi. So let's save that. And now let's run. Oh, give me a second. So once it's saved, let's run our Flask app using the command Flask run. It's going to open up this web page, so just command click. And as you can see, let me make it big for you, you can see our hi on our home page. Great, so Flask works. Now let's connect it to our database. First, we are going to set up our environment variable. In the same directory, open up a file and name it .env. And in here is where our connection string for MongoDB is going to go. So just name it connection string, and then head on over to Atlas. And hit connect. We're going to connect it with our driver. So our driver is Python, and the version we are using is 3.9, so it's going to be 3 or 6 or later. Actually, sorry, give me a second. So first, we are going to set up our environment variable. In the same directory, create a new file and name it .env. And in here, we're going to put in our connection string. So just name it connection string, and then let's head back to Atlas, click connect. We're going to be connecting through our driver. So we have our Python driver, and then our version is 3.9, so it's going to be version 3.6 or later. Just copy in your connection string. And don't forget to put in your password and your username here. So they already put in my username for me, and I just have to put in my password, and it's just MongoDB, MongoDB. So save that. And now we have our .env file set up. Once your connection string is properly put in, let's work on our app.py file. We need to first configure access to our cluster. To do this, we're just going to go back to our app.py file and put in load.env, and then our connection string is going to be a string with os.environ.get, and then the name of our connection string from our environment file. So it's just connection string. We're going to do Mongo client is equal to Mongo clients, and then once again, just connection string. Great, save that. And now we need to add in our database and our collection from Atlas. So it's just going to be database. The database is equal to Mongo client get database, and then the name of our database, which is bookshelf. And then we need to do the same thing for our collection. It's going to be collection is equal to database.get collection, and that is going to be named books. And save that. So here we are just connecting our connection string and adding in our database and our collection. Before we move on, let's make sure that we are actually connected to our database in Atlas. So I'm just going to quickly add in another book. And I'm going to do that with book is equal to book. And then I'm just going to do, let's do Harry Potter. And we're going to do pages is equal to 800. So let's add that in with collection.insert1 and book. Great. Let's save that and then run it and see if it shows up in Atlas. And look at that. We now have The Great Gatsby and Harry Potter in our Atlas account. Now that we are connected, we can move on to our create, read, update, and delete functions. And if you want, you can delete the books from Atlas. I'm just going to delete these 2 lines right here. And now we can move on. So I'm going to super quickly go over our homepage for a second. This is a super optional step, but it is fun. And if you've never used Flask before, it can also be helpful. Right now, we have our homepage hard-coded, but instead it's easier to render a template for our homepage. To get it set up, go back to our files, create a new folder called templates, And inside of this folder, we're going to add in a file called index.html. This file is where all of our HTML and CSS for our homepage will go. So I am just going to copy it over from my GitHub, and please feel free to do the same since this isn't the focus of the tutorial and it's just for a pretty cover. Once you have copied in the file or created your own, let's link it in our app.py file. So this is where the render template from our imports is going to come into play. Instead of having the hi, we are now going to do return render template and then input our index.html file. Great, so save that, and then we're just going to run it again to make sure that it worked. And it did. This is our new homepage. So in this demo, we are going to be combining both of our create and read functions. This will allow us to add in a new book into our bookshelf and allow us to see all of our books depending on which request method we choose. So to do this, we just want to do app.root. We want to put in books, and then our methods are going to be both get and also post. We do def books, and then if our request method is equal to post, then this is going to be our create function. We have book, which is a string. I'm going to do request.json, and this is going to be book. And then we're going to do pages, which is also a string, and then same thing, request.json, and then pages. So now we want to insert our new book into our books collection in Atlas. Let me scroll down a little bit. So we're just going to do collection.insert1, and then we're going to do book, which is book, and then once again pages, which is pages. And I seem to have lost that. There we go. Great. And now just for readability purposes, let's make a quick little return. It's just going to be create your book with your number of pages. Pages has been added to your bookshelf. Awesome. Let me zoom out one just so you can see everything. All right, now let's do our read function. So we're just going to go here and do else if request.method is equal to get. And this is going to be, once again, our read function. So we're going to have bookshelf is equal to lists with our collection find. Great. Let me scroll up a little bit. And we're going to have novels, just new list. And now we're going to just make it look pretty when we return it from Postman, so that it's in the same format as everything else. So for titles in bookshelf, we're going to do book is equal to titles. So book, and then we're going to have pages is equal to titles, and then pages have shelf is equal to book, book, oops, pages, pages. All right, and now we need to insert it. So novels, insert, and this is how we want to insert it in. So shelf, awesome, and then just return novels, and let's save that. Cool. So this, once again, this is our create function, and this is our get function, and we have combined both of them under just the root books. So let's run our app. It works. Now let's use Postman to put in a book and read our books back to us. Gonna go in here. And remember our endpoint is books. And first off, let's do get and see what happens. Awesome. Let me zoom in so you guys can see this nicely. All right. So just like before, we can see both of our books from Atlas. Now let's test and see if our post function works. So I want to add in another book, and I want this book to be The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Awesome. And we're going to have pages, and that's going to be 150. Cool. Now let's send it. And awesome, your book, The Perks of Being a Wallflower, 150 pages, has been added to your bookshelf. Let's go back and check in Atlas to make sure now that we have 3 new books. So I'm going to refresh that. And great, now we have The Great Gatsby, we have Harry Potter, and we have The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Now that we know our create and read functions work, let's move on to our update function. So we're going to do app.root, and then we're going to do books, so same endpoint, but this time we're going to use the book ID. Book ID. And then our methods are going to be puts. And so we are using the book ID because, let me show you. Every single document in MongoDB has a unique ID along with it. So for both of our update and delete functions, we're going to be utilizing the book ID. So we have def, update book with our book ID, and then that's a string, and we're going to do new book is request.json. I'm going to do book, and then new pages, which is a string, is going to be equal to request.json and pages. Awesome. And now we're just going to do collection and update 1. And this one is going to look like this. So ID is going to be our BSON object ID. And we're going to have book ID. And then we are going to do our set operator. And that needs to be in quotes. So set our book to our new book, and we need to set our let me get rid of this. Pages, okay. So we're going to set our pages to our new pages. Awesome. So now once again, let's just do a quick little return statement. So update. Your book has been updated to, and then we're going to do our new book. And then we're also going to do, once again, our new pages. So this is going to look like this, and then we're also going to have pages here. Okay, awesome. Let's save that. Let's make sure to quit this before we run it again. So Flask run. We'll go back here. Let me first grab in a book ID. So I'm going to do Perks Being the Wallflower. We're just going to exchange this book out. So I'm going to copy that, go back here, and this is going to be our put request. And instead of Perks Being a Wallflower, I want to do the Odyssey, and I'm going to do 200 pages. So let's send that. And great, your book has been updated to the Odyssey 200 pages. Now let's use our get function and see if it's actually been updated. So send it. We don't need the book ID for this one, or that. And as we can see, we have the Odyssey instead of Perks being a wallflower, and we have Harry Potter and the Great Gatsby. Amazing, so our update function worked. Now let's finish off strong with our delete function. So this one is going to look a lot like our update function. It's going to be same thing, books, and then we're going to do string and then book ID. And then our methods this time are going to be delete. And let me scroll up. And we're going to do def remove book. We're going to do book ID, which is going to be a string. And then in here, we're going to do collection.delete1. And then it looks very similar to the update function. And we're going to do bson.objectID. And then we're going to do book ID. And our return statement can just say delete your book, which is ID is equal to book ID has been removed from your bookshelf. Awesome. So let's save that, run it again, go back to Postman, or actually let's head over to Atlas and let's make sure that we can get the same book ID. So why don't we just go in and we'll delete the Odyssey this time. So we'll grab it from here, copy that over, go in here, and we'll do our delete request instead. And we'll send it. And look at that, your book has been removed from your bookshelf. And let's check using our get function. Let's send that. Once again, let's send it. And great, we only have 2 books and the Odyssey is nowhere to be found. So now that we have our Flask application that can utilize CRUD functionalities while using MongoDB Atlas as our database, let's get our app hosted on Microsoft Azure App Service. To do this, we're going to need to have the Azure CLI already downloaded, and I'm going to do it through the CLI. I'm going to create my web app through the CLI, but in my article, I did it through the UI, so it just depends whatever you're comfortable with. But our first step is to just do AZ login so that we can log in to our Azure subscription. It's going to take us to a different page. I'm going to click my account, and then I'm going to exit out of here and going to go back. And I'll know that I'm successfully logged in when I see that my subscription is on the page. So from here, let me clear this for a second. So from here, we're going to create our web app with one very simple command, and that is just going to be AZ web app up, and then you need to pick a globally unique name for your web app. So I'm just going to do Anaya Atlas Flask Demo 16 so that I know for sure that it is a globally unique name. And then my location is East US. So this is just all the information I'm going to put in. And whatever I left out, it's just going to default. So I'm going to hit return. And now our web app is building. It's going to take a while, so I'm going to come back when it's completely done. Once it's been configured, you will see all of this information with our location, our service plan, and then the most important, our URL. So let's open that up. And it's our app. But before we can proceed and check to see all of our books or use any of our CRUD functions, we first have to access the UI and refresh it, and then put in our connection string here as well. Because it was in a different file, so we have to do it manually. You can also do it through the command line, but I'm just going to do it through the UI for simplicity's sake. So go to configuration, click on new application setting, put in connection string, and then copy in our connection string from our environment file. Awesome. And then just hit save. And it's going to update our web app settings. Once it's been successful, we can go back to our demo app, refresh, and now let's see if it's connected by just going to our endpoint books. And as you can see, we have both Harry Potter and The Great Gatsby. Now let's take this URL, go back to Postman, and exchange it here, and just put in one more book, just for fun. Let's put back in the Odyssey. So we'll send that. Your book, The Odyssey, 200 pages, has been added to your bookshelf. Let's check here and refresh. And there we have it. The Odyssey has been added back to our bookshelf. So congratulations, we have successfully created a Flask application from scratch, connected it to our MongoDB Atlas database, and we have hosted it on Azure App Service. So these skills will actually continue to come in handy, and I hope that you really enjoyed the journey, as I know I sure did. Separately, Azure App Service and MongoDB host a variety of benefits, but together they are truly unstoppable. Combined, they both provide a powerful platform for building and scaling web applications that can handle large amounts of data. Azure App Service makes it easy to deploy and scale web applications, whereas MongoDB provides a flexible and scalable data storage solution. So for more information and for everything discussed in the video, I will provide links in the description below, along with my Twitter, my LinkedIn, and MongoDB Developer Center links. So if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.